Joes for the price of one. Joe Maymi, man about town, gentleman, scholar, husband.
Well, you're being very kind now. Now you're being a little kind, Phil.
That's right. Yeah. A man who needs no introduction, but I will introduce. Manager of the Howard Hanna Rand White Plains office, and a good guy and a friend. Welcome to Real Estate Unscripted.
You know, Phil, no one has said so many good words about me in the last 20 years. So thank you. That's very kind of you, Phil. Very kind.
Well, you know, I just call it like I see it, and I never make it up. So I have known you for.
What are you drinking there? What are you drinking there, Phil?
I'm drinking a knockoff of Dr. Pepper, which is sweetened with stevia.
Okay, so that's what keeps you going in the morning, huh? No, you know, listen, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, Phil. It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Oh no, geez, I wish. Although I got a prop somewhere. I always have a prop. Okay, here we go. There we go.
Oh, excellent.
There's a prop.
Excellent. Yeah, that's a reminder. That's a reminder.
There is
just enough.
Blackberry brand. There's blackberry brandy in there. That doesn't spoil, does it?
I wouldn't know, but I have experts in the family that would know.
Okay, I got to bring this back on track. All right, so you have been in real estate how many years?
Actually, this year would be my 30th year in the industry.
So early 90s.
Started in 93. When I was.
Where were you at that? So you got into real estate in high school. What got you into real estate in 1993 of all years?
Well, so I was I finished my grad program at the University at Albany, and I started my PhD. And November 1993, that's when I got licensed. What happened was Christmas break came in, and living in college, broke.
Yes.
I came back home for the Christmas break, and met a friend of mine who had a brokerage in the Bronx, and he says, "Why don't you come in, rent a few apartments, get some cash, bring it back to campus, and pay the bills?" And I said, "Great." And that was 30 years ago, because I did some rentals and started to get into sales. And my mentor called me. I remember in the summer of 1994, Dr. Mitchell Livingston, that was his name. And he called me and he says, "Hey, I don't see you on the rolls for fall semester 94. And I said, "Dr. Livingston, I promise I'll be back. I'm just going to get some more money, and so I can go back to college and pay the bills." And he says, "Joe," he says, "once you get a little bit of this," he says, "you're never going to come back." And I said, "I promise I will." And again, that was 30 years ago. He was 100% right. I haven't spoken to the man ever since. There was no sense in looking back. When I started the career, I was hustling very, very quickly. I'm a kid from Harlem, so there's a lot of grit. And I started to make money very quickly. And then when I realized the kind of money that I was making in real estate in comparison to an entry-level position in higher ed, because my degree was in higher education administration, right? My goal was to be a dean or a president of a college or university. That was the dream when I was 22 years old. But when I realized what I was making in real estate at the age of 22, 23, and my entry-level position, and had I gone back into college as financial aid or
right,
it didn't make any sense for me at that point. So nothing against guys who go into college and administration, but for me, the income disparity was so great, I just went full steam ahead in real estate.
I would also suggest that it wasn't just about the money. Probably people go where their joy is. I mean, I've known people, and so have you. You have hired and trained agents who could do this in their sleep, but it wasn't their joy, and they left the business.
Right. And I think you're right about that, Phil, because again, part of my DNA makeup has always been an educator, right? Again, I got into higher education. I wanted to be in that learning environment. And the joy that I have now is meeting with individuals, young agents or seasoned agents, and kind of bringing into them the learning environment that I created here in the office, because it's always a teaching moment, right? So my
Absolutely.
picks up that. So it's not at this point. You're right. At this point, it's not a whole lot about money. It's more about doing what I believe in, and that's
Yeah.
training and coaching and just education overall.
Yep. All right. So, growing up in Harlem. Now, I know a little bit about your story. Share with me and all the people out there in internet land. You've got a pretty cool background, dude.
Yeah.
You've got a pretty cool background, and you know the old adage: behind every great man, there's a great woman. You got a couple of them.
Right.
But tell us about the first.
Right. So for everyone on TV land who don't know, this is a pretty inspiring story, Phil, and I'm going to surprise you with something that I'm actually still working on. So my brother and I were adopted at a very early age, at the age of 6 months. My mom was in the foster care system with Catholic Charities back in the 1960s. So she was a woman that took care of a lot of kids in the foster care system. When they gave my mother, my brother and I, when we were 6 months. And she kept us for about a year and a half until we were 2 years old. At that point, Catholic Charities couldn't find a family that would take both of us. They wanted to separate us, right? And unfortunately, in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, if you take a look at the documentaries, that was a common practice.
They did that, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. My mom said, no way, that's not going to happen. So she went ahead and took the steps to adopt us 2, 3, 4 years later. And she did. She adopted us a few years later and raised my father and my mother, obviously, raised us for a while. She's since passed. She passed last November and left a great legacy, right?
She did.
My brother and I we're doing well. The follow-up to all that is there's always, I found out recently being 10, 15 years ago, Phil, that I had 4 or 5 other brothers and sisters that were all separated.
Wow.
At that time. Yes. I didn't want to do anything, Phil, to be honest with you, just out of respect for my mother and my father. But there was always that burning desire of saying, well, where are they? Are they living next to me? What's their story? What's my complete story?
Yeah. So
after my mom passed away, I started to do some digging. I went on Ancestry.com and I went on 23andMe. And the information that they have there is pretty, outstanding. Truth is, there are, I located my brothers and sisters, believe it or not.
Very cool.
I was told that my mom had passed away 15 years ago. Not
your birth.
My birth mom.
Yeah.
She's alive. Yep. I met with her recently. Wow. I was told that my birth father was a German Jew that came in on Fleet Week in 1968 and did his business with my birth mom, and that he was gone. Turns out that's not 100% accurate. The guy is alive and he lives in Florida. And he wasn't a German Jew. He was a meat distributor, butcher in Harlem, in La Marqueta, which is where I grew up back in the 60s and 70s and 80s. So this is a developing story. I mean, it's a sidetrack. You don't notice. We didn't get a chance to share that the other day. But when I tell you it is new discoveries every day, I am not kidding.
Okay, so we have something in common. Now, I don't know about the provenance of all of your DNA.
Right.
And I suppose you're still uncovering it all.
Right.
But one of my father's last revelations was that his mom was a Polish Jew who converted. And that my brothers and I, our first reaction was, this is why we like pickled tomatoes. All of us.
You didn't know that until now, huh?
All of us said that. All of us said that. But your dad, your birth father was not a German Jew?
No, he literally my based on ancestry.com, my DNA. I grew up in a Puerto Rican household, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I thought my genetic makeup was. Turns out I'm Polish Jewish, 50%. To be exact, 54%. And the balance of me is comprised of Caribbean, Hispanic, Puerto Rican kind of stuff. So
wow,
very interesting stuff. Yeah, so you and I are more related than we thought.
We could be distantly related, dude.
We could be cousins.
It was a little bit. Very cool.
Yeah.
So you grew up in Harlem. Where'd you go to high school? You went through a master's degree, working on a PhD. I mean, clearly it was impressed upon you the importance of education.
Right.
Clearly.
Right. Absolutely. So I went to Cardinal Spellman High School, Catholic high school. And that high school is a college prep in the Bronx. Yeah. So that's a high school, that's a college prep school. So it was just a natural tradition. Yeah. I ran track in high school. I was a pretty good sprinter. And I ran track as a sprinter for the University at Albany for 4 years.
You were All-American
sprinter. Huh? A Great Dane.
You were a Great Dane.
A Great Dane. Still am a Great Dane.
Once a Great Dane, always a Great Dane. Once a Wildcat, always a Wildcat, we say too.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So I was an All-American track athlete, sprinter. In the 100-meter dash, 200-meter dash, 400-meter dash. So I'm competitive by nature.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, very competitive. I like to win.
Yeah.
I don't mind losing if I lose against a good competitor. I don't mind that at all. But you always put your best foot forward.
Absolutely. So here's another interesting thing. My nephew Tim, adopted by my oldest brother, also found out he had siblings, birth mother, family, everything like that, and he did not want to contact them right away because he felt like conflicted with my brother and my sister-in-law. But my brother encouraged him, like, you should meet these folks, and right. They all met, and it was all wonderful. And Tim's like 20 something years old, so it was just reconnecting and joy and discovery and everything like that. And I think for your birth family to know that you were where you needed to be to reach your true potential. I mean, wherever your birth mother is, I mean, she's got to be happy that you and your brother are both okay, more than okay. So that's pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, that's one of the main reasons that I wanted to meet with her. Everyone in my family and friends, I didn't tell a whole lot of people, actually. So yeah. I don't know if you have dozens or hundreds of dozens of people on this call right now, Phil, but now they know. Thanks to you, Phil. Now they know.
Now they know. Very cool.
No, I actually sat with her, my birth mom, at some point last year, in December, January, a couple of months ago, actually, just to let her know exactly what you just said, Phil. To let her know that, look, the two boys that she unfortunately had to give up at birth for whatever challenges she was going through turned out to be okay, right? To give her a peace of mind that 54 years later, that her two sons, have families, they have careers, they have friends, they have homes.
And she's got an awesome grandson.
And that she has an awesome grandson too, right? So it's you want to give that person that kind of peace of mind, because there's as a parent, there's going to be a void, right? There's going to be a sense of emptiness, and I wanted to fulfill that for her, remove that emptiness. So now we've spoken a couple of times, and she'll never replace my adoptive mother, right?
Right, of course. It's different roles.
Exactly. But it's important that I had a chance to connect with her and let her know that we turned out okay.
Wow. She must have been so relieved and overjoyed and thankful and, full circle,
Oh, yeah. It was, for the first 10, 15 minutes, it was awkward. Not for me, but for her. She couldn't, she had a tough time looking me at my face, like she was ashamed that she gave us up. And I had told her, Yeah, and I told her, I said it's okay what you did. What you did was important because you by doing that you saved my life, right? You know,
Yeah.
because who knows the
The
trap
sacrifice.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We've held our sons in our arms, you and
correct.
I.
That's right.
Can
That's
you
right.
imagine how hard it would be to hand them to someone and know that you may never see them again for their own good?
Right.
I absolutely cannot imagine the strength and the pain. And she did it. And the fact that she was able to, you know, finally have you tell her it was okay. I just can't imagine. So wow.
You didn't expect that, huh? I'm telling you,
Yeah,
I'm writing a story.
it's a
I'm writing a
beautiful.
story.
You got to do that, man. You got to do
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
So I met you somewhere around, I don't know, maybe 2010, 2013, sometime in there. You
Hmm.
were the manager of a Coldwell office in, I want to say, Brookfield, Ridgefield, something like that.
In Richfield, Connecticut. Hmm.
Ridgefield, Connecticut. Um, what got you there from rentals in the Bronx? Because that's another leap. That's another big leap.
Right.
So you didn't go back to graduate school. Um, Cornelius Vanderbilt, or whoever the guy was, the guy that said, once you see the money, you're not gonna.
Yeah,
I
right.
forgot
He
his
says,
name.
once you see this, Mitchell Livingston. He says, once
Mitchell
you see
Livingston.
this.
Sorry, one of those
Yeah, right.
multi-syllabic
Right, right. Those classic,
names whose
classy names.
whose whose father was probably not a German Jew. You know,
Probably not. Probably not.
it does sound like. So, tell me about a little bit about that. Going from the rentals and evolving into management, Connecticut, the suburbs, all of that.
It was really fast moving, Phil, to be honest with you. You know, so when I joined this small brokerage firm in the Bronx, and then eventually I told my broker at that time, I said, look, we need to swim with some national names. We're a small firm. We were competing with some national names at that time, Century 21,
Yeah,
ERA. So we decided to buy into a Coldwell Banker brokerage franchise. And then 5 years later, he decided to go into commercial real estate, and I bought his company from him and built his company in the Bronx. And then eventually, I went independent. In 2003 to 2007, when the market was hot, I got involved in everything. I got involved with obviously the regular residential brokerage of things, but also got involved with buying and selling and flipping and tax liens and new construction. And any given point, I was down in Philadelphia, I was down I was in the Bronx, I was in Westchester, I was in Fort Lee, New Jersey, I was in Waterbury, Connecticut, wherever the business took us, right?
yeah,
And then the market crashed and burned in 2007, 2008. You know how that went.
a little bit,
A little
little bit.
bit, right? We were all kind of sitting there in the sidelines. Private money wasn't available as much.
No,
People underwater. So I was one of those guys that 2008 just kind of was trying to figure things out. I had enough inventory that I was caught either flipping it, trying to rent it, trying to get out of things. I got caught in that wave as well. And then 2009, my wife said to me, "Why don't you go back into regular real estate, the stuff that you were good at?" And I said, "Good idea." At that point, I was living in Yonkers, and I decided to come to the White Plains office for Coldwell Banker because I thought White Plains is a good location. You touch upon the Bronx, you can go to Yorktown Heights, you can go right
yeah,
over the
yeah.
bridge to Rockland.
It's the
Right,
center of the wheel, right?
exactly.
Yeah,
Fairfield County, so Stanford. And then I did a year of that, and management came to me and said, "Hey, listen, if there's an office that becomes available and you can do what you did to your offices down in the city, would you be interested in management?" And everyone at that point said, "What, are you crazy? Why would you go back into management? You're doing well in the industry as an agent." I was the number one agent for Coldwell Banker 2009, 2010, all Westchester County and units. So I was doing okay. But again, what kicked in? The DNA of coaching and teaching and training and all that stuff kicked in again. So
yeah.
I took a position in Richfield, and I was there for 5 years. Did very well with that office. When that office was 30, that office was 33rd out of 35 offices. We weren't, and at that time, the office wasn't doing that well. By the time I left, we were top four in the entire Northeast region. And again, I say that not because I want to make a point and impress you, but to say that was part of my competitive nature as well, that I wanted to do something great with the opportunity that was given to me.
You did.
Yeah. And then Marsha Rand came knocking on my door in 2017, and she says, we have this flagship office in White Plains, and we're making some moves, and your name came across our table, and would you have an interest in this opportunity? I looked at it, and I said, fine. It gave me an opportunity, Phil, to go back into a more robust market, dealing not only with single-family homes, but then on multifamilies and land development and high-end rentals and multifamilies and investments. And I saw the team that we had here. I thought this is a team that we can grow and build, and it's a beautiful office space. So I decided to move to White Plains and join the Rands.
I got to say, that is a really beautiful office space. It's
yeah, they did a nice
beautiful
job.
Location. Yeah, they really did. So at some point, you got into the REO world as well.
Right.
So, and that was probably fortuitous. We talk about the market of the moment, right? Being in REO when the market was down was the place you needed to be. Now, I worked distressed, but mostly in short sales with, from 2008 onward, Q short jokes anytime you want, by the way. But what I saw selling in 40% of the market, at least, was distress of some sort. Short sales, distress sales of some sort, people underwater, people behind. Of course, bank-owned inventory was just flooding. There is still some shadow inventory out there. Not a lot, but a little thread of shadow inventory out there that's in limbo for whatever. But being a manager, I know all the work that goes into REO. I know about the pre-marketing, all of that. How did you balance all of that with the incredible demands of working for asset managers and institutional entities?
Yeah.
Did you clone yourself? I mean, are you like an amazing time manager? I mean, what did you do?
I had a little bit of everything, Phil. You have to know your strength and your weaknesses, right? My strength is getting the business, is talking to people and helping them make decisions about real estate, right? Yep. The paperwork is not one of my strengths. So I delegated, right? Yep. I delegated that business to, I had a personal assistant that would do the back office stuff for me, right? Just like a lot of top producers have their marketing assistants, personal assistants. Once you start making $100,000, at that point, you should start to look at hiring some help. I always say to any of the top agents, the moment you think you need help, you've already lost money.
You needed help yesterday, right?
Exactly. So I just took my own medicine, and one day I was doing what everyone was doing. I was able to get one account, which was a Chase account, and then I figured, how do I build that and to get more asset managers? And I started to do the fundamentals, a lot of BPOs for asset management companies, and then one day, Wells Fargo, who was my biggest account at that point, next to more than Chase at that point, sent me an email one morning and said, "Hey, you did a BPO on a job 2 years ago. Would you now that we've taken it over, do you want the assignment?" And I had a look, and that was like 6 o'clock in the morning because I was still doing BPOs, and I looked at my email and I said, "Oh, this looks like spam," and I was that close to deleting it. But I said, "Let me read it again." Right? Let me read it again. And I said, "Holy smokes, this is Wells Fargo." And sure enough, I pressed that button that said, "I'll take the assignment." And, I was off to the races with Wells Fargo, and again, when everything when the shit hit the fan, unfortunately, there was a lot of folks that got themselves in trouble, and there was ample inventory, right? It's not something not the kind of clientele we want to work with, because that means someone is losing their home. And that's not a good place to be in, right? But I was fortunate enough then to work with NRG REO, work with Fannie Mae, then work with Chase and Wells Fargo and a couple of other small outfits. At that point, I hired someone to do the back office paperwork. But I thought it was a lot of fun, and it was challenging.
Yeah.
We got some really good people, but the same day it was here, the same day it was gone, right? A few years later, the inventory, they started giving out assignments. And I mean, and today there's not a whole lot out there,
No.
only because most people have equity in their homes, right? If the appreciation has gone through the roof, that someone who's in trouble 4 years ago, 5 years ago, they were underwater. Now with 10, 15, 20% gains, they can either sell for a small profit or break even. They don't have to allow it to get into an REO status.
Yeah.
They still have them, but not at the number that we had them before.
Oh, it's a trickle, because the moratorium really just set the whole hourglass on the other side again. So a lot of them just started from scratch, really.
Right.
So there's very little now. And all this time, you're a dad and you're raising this awesome son, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that, because
yeah,
I know it means a lot to you.
Yeah, it does. He's so I have a 23-year-old son. His name is Yes.
And I'm sitting down.
I think he's 23. He was born. He'll be 24 in August. Yeah, he'll be 24 in August. It's the rice and beans, Phil. It's the rice and beans. There's a daily diet of rice and beans here. And bagels.
Those are very good for you.
To honor my Jewish side, I eat bagels too, Phil, in the morning.
Well, you can put the legumes, the beans, in a schmear and
one great lunch, big lunch.
I love it.
Yeah, so my son he's a great kid. He was in Richfield and went to school and went to college, and now he's this sort of music composer, engineer, DJ that's doing a lot of really great work in and around the city, and creating some music for some up and coming artists.
And
doing what
he's doing.
Oh, he loves what he does. Yeah, he loves what he does.
Is he out on his own now, or is he still at home?
No, he's been on his own for a while. He's on his own for a while. Yeah.
Crazy.
He lives in Queens, in Astoria, Queens.
Oh,
in fact,
awesome.
we were talking the other day. We went out to dinner and we were talking about he wants to move into this building that's next to where he lives now, and it has a view of the water and I think it's the bridge.
The 59th Street Bridge. If he's in Astoria, he's looking at the 59th Street Bridge, probably.
Yeah, no, it's not the 59th. It's a Triborough Bridge. There's a tower.
Yeah.
There.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't miss it. So for him, that's luxury living, right? So if he can get this into this studio apartment, he'll at the age of 25, that's luxury living for him. And so he set some goals, and some income goals. I'm getting him involved also in the real estate industry, so I can kind of part some wisdom to him, I should say, regarding real estate investing and things of that nature. So there's nothing wrong with a dual career, and real estate being one of them, right?
Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. So,
and I'm told you also cohabitate with an agent that's not half bad at this.
That's a good word, cohabitate. I like that word. Yeah, Trudy.
I studied English.
There you go. So Trudy Iglesias is my wife. We've been married now for since 2015, but dating since 2012. And I have to tell you, it's interesting that at first she was working with Coldwell Banker, and I was with Rand. When I was with Coldwell Banker, I would give her things to do and some ideas, and we would talk about developing the business. But when I went to Rand, I remember going to Marsha Rand and saying, and Marsha gave me great advice. I said to Marsha, I said, I don't want to train my competition. She's with Coldwell Banker, and she's doing well. And I have these things that I'm working on, and I want to be able to share with her, but I'm literally training my competition. Yeah. And Marsha said to me, she says, listen, she says, she's your wife first, right? You support your wife first, and then everything else falls in line. And she was right. And I took that perspective, and I said, let me go ahead and just talk to her as if she was talking to an agent, as I was talking to an agent here in the office. But then sure enough, within a year's time, with a little bit of extra coaching and all, she joined us at Rand, and she's been with us for about 5 years now, actually. And I know 5 because she just became a legend with the company, which is agents that have produced 5 years, a certain minimum, become legends. So that's a 5-year minimum. So that means that she's been here 5 years, and she's doing well. You know, similar to most agents in this industry now, particularly now in this market, Phil. You know, because you have your team as well. Everyone is. This is a challenging market, right? This is
a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
This market is separating the men from the boys and the women from the girls, and you really have to double down and work hard, and that's what she's doing, you know. And
Well,
she's having good days and she's having bad days, like most agents.
Did you ever do a deal with Trudy? Were you ever on the other side of a deal?
I don't believe so. No, I don't believe so. I don't.
Okay, well, I have.
Oh, okay.
And she's a pleasure to do business with. And let me tell
So
you,
I've heard.
Let me tell you the balance that she's able to do that's the mark of a true pro. Advocacy should not create adversarial relationships just because you have competing interests. So she can advocate and be collegial without being an adversary. All right. She was a phenomenal advocate for her client. And I'll never forget it. It was a raised ranch in Yonkers, right on the border of Edgemont. It needed everything. She had institutional control of the client. She was communicative. She advocated for them very, very well. We closed it. We had our bumps, but we handled it. And she was such a pleasure to do business with. Such a pleasure. Yeah. And I know she'll remember that. It was a raised ranch, Yonkers, and it needed everything, dude. It was bad. It was bad. Right?
Stop talking about my house that way, Phil.
Your house, right? So
I love that house, Phil.
Tell me about speaking of great women, Mrs. Rand.
Yes.
Because every time I hear stories like this about her, you know, it kind of belies, you know, sort of that self-interested tunnel vision stereotype one has about the leader of a company, right? Mm-hmm. Like you'd think that, you know, on brand. Yeah, that's right, Joe. You know, don't tell her, you know, trade secrets, blah, 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 whatever. But no, she's like family first, right?
Right.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. She, you know, you have to take your hat off to Marsha because she did something back in the 1980s, right? She was by trade a registered nurse.
Yep.
She had 4 sons. And she went from the nursing field, got into real estate, and then opened up her own brokerage 40 years ago.
Yep.
And you take a look at what she's done now. Her and her 4 sons, right? She got her sons. They all went through college. They all did their training, and they all followed the family business.
Yep.
So now she has this company that is tri-state, partnered up with Howard Hanna.
Yep.
And the woman is very tenacious. Now she's taken more, understandably so, a mentorship role. Now she just mentors and coaches agents to whatever level they want to go to, right? Matt Rand runs the business. He's the day-to-day. And Joe Rand is the creative officer for the company. And his son and the brother Dan takes care of all the Hudson title, mortgage, and insurance. But Marsha is still Marsha. We all know that she's the matriarch of this entire company. And there's something to be said, Phil, between I've been on both sides, right? I've been on the Realogy Coldwell Banker publicly traded company, and then I've been on the independent family owned.
Yeah.
And both have their merits. There's nothing wrong with both kinds of companies. From the independent standpoint and the standpoint of working with a family-owned business, there's a lot more attention. They kind of know what's going on at any given point. Marsha is in tune with, and it's incredible because you have close to 2,000 agents. She's in tune with most of them, right? And she lives part-time in Florida, right? And she's, God bless her, she's there now, having a good time. Probably at 11:30, she's probably playing tennis right now. God bless her, right? Yeah. But at any given point, you can call her on the phone and she'll pick up. So, how often can you reach out to the founder of the company that's still active, speed dial her, whether you're an agent or a manager, and get her on the phone, and she cares about what you have to say, right?
Yeah.
And that's trickled down to her sons as well. So, and she's the reason. She taught me a big lesson as well a few years ago, even as a manager and as an agent, about being tenacious and being consistent. It took several phone calls from her and several scheduled appointments for me to meet with her so that we could talk about this opportunity that she had here in White Plains. I was coasting for the most part, in the right lane at CB, right? Ridgefield, no problem. But it was her tenacity in calling me and saying, look, there may be something else that's available for you. There's an opportunity that I just want to present to you. And I sat down with her and I saw the opportunity. And again, if it was, and I tell this to my agents all the time about calling that expired listing, calling that FSBO. Take the lessons from somebody that did exactly what you should be doing, is 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 7 follow-up phone calls. Don't give up because the first time someone doesn't pick up that phone call or says, well, I'm not too sure, says no to you the first time.
Yeah.
She's a classic example of someone that, for me, taught me tenacity at this level.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so Joe and I her oldest son, right? We like to kid around a little bit because we have you mentioned that Marcia's an RN. So Joe and I were born the same day in 1967.
Wow.
To RNs.
Is that right? Wow.
Now, of course, we were both named Joseph, but I go by my middle name. That's a whole long story, right? So there's this sort of parallel, bizarro version of each other. So Joe's a big, strong football player guy.
Right.
And I, as you know, am not.
Yeah.
I'm a lightweight wrestler, and that's me as the coxswain in the back of this little boat here in college.
Oh, wow.
Competitive. Yeah, that's
okay.
Good. Mm-hmm. So he went to Georgetown. I went to Villanova. Huge rivals. He became a lawyer. I became a real estate broker. Again, kind of like, what's mongooses and cobras, or whatever. Like not natural affinity for each other. As a matter of fact, there was an old joke. There's a lawyer in Peekskill. She was a real estate agent, became a lawyer, and she told me her friends joked to her, "What are you going to do? Become a lawyer so you can kill your own deals?" All right. But the first time I ever met with Marcia, we had breakfast or lunch, and it was very nice. And she said to me, my sons have told me I should meet with you, and I'm just curious why you agreed to meet with me. And I said, well, if Marcia Rand invites you to meet, my thought is you should meet.
Right.
And I have 4 kids, and you have 4 kids, and yours turned out pretty well. So whatever your secret sauce is, I think I should talk to you.
Right.
And I think I said the right thing. She really is a remarkable woman, and everything good I think she truly deserves. She truly deserves. And I don't know how many grandchildren she has, but I think she enjoys every one of them. So
absolutely. I can tell you that Christmas is not a dull moment in her house and the Rand's house, because I've seen pictures. They got a bunch of little kids running all over the place. God bless them. That wouldn't work for me, but God bless her. God bless her. Phil, when you tilted Phil, when you tilted your shoulder there, is that a Captain America shield you have there?
Yes.
Oh, tell me about that. Is that your room? Is that your favorite Marvel character?
My favorite Marvel character. Captain's up there. But I also am worthy. I don't want to show off, but
Oh. You have Phil's hammer too, and you were able to lift it.
Yeah, and I got Darth Vader here. I mean, I got a lot. This is a nerd palace here. It really is, and it's just what my. Okay.
This is my pen holder.
Oh, that's a pen holder.
That's a pen holder. It's genius. This is a 3D printed. This is 3D printed pen holder. And you see he's kneeling to me. You see that?
Yeah.
That's my YouTube channel right there, guys. That's it.
That's a beautiful thing.
You should see. I have a man cave in which I have a lot of Marvel and DC collectibles. I'll send you the video one day. You'll be so jealous, Phil. You're gonna be jealous.
Maybe, but then I'll show you my oldest son's bedroom. But we'll see. But,
Okay.
okay. So here, next question. We have to ask this: Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Okay.
Although my favorite character is Superman, but Marvel over DC.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And you? And you?
I'm a Marvel guy.
Okay.
I am a Marvel guy. But my favorite overall character, I got to tell you, it's a cross between I waffle between Batman and Captain America.
Really? Batman and Captain America. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Well, you and I are of a certain age where we watched the campy Batman with
Adam West,
Cesar Romero, yeah, all that on TV.
Mm-hmm.
But the real Dark Knight kind of character, that's pretty cool.
Right.
I gotta say,
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the whole,
Yeah.
The whole archetype of wealthy, brilliant scientist with the double life and all the gizmos, and all the chicks dig him, but he's not ready to get attached and everything like that. I am none of those things, but I so envy it. I so envy it. But yeah.
So I have to ask you then, Phil, the question that
Sure.
the dozens of people that are watching this want to know.
Okay.
Which is your favorite Batman? Is your Batman favorite the one who played Batman actor Michael Keaton?
Michael Keaton.
Ben Affleck. Wow, I didn't even get to this guy who played him in The Dark Knight. What's his name? Christian Bale.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Michael Keaton.
So you must be excited to see The Flash then.
I think that is Michael Keaton going to be in that?
Yep.
Val Kilmer. Look, he was pretty good, and I think I got to tell you, George Clooney, I think, was a pretty good Batman.
Yeah.
I think he was pretty good.
Yeah.
I was wondering what happened to Chris O'Donnell, the kid, the actor that played Robin in that. He's dropped off the face of the earth after that. But I thought he was great in Sense of a Woman.
Wasn't that great? Yeah, that was one of those movies. The script wasn't that great. They had Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think, playing Mr. Freeze. It was too comical. It was too comical. Yeah,
well, I think those guys never make good villains.
Yeah, they never do. Especially back in the old days. It was, think about the movies now and the way they made them, the CGI now and the CGI back in the 1990s or whatever. It's just a different planet. Different planet. Yeah. All right, there is no comparison.
All right. So, and I'll tell you why it's Michael Keaton. First of all,
right.
when they announced it would be Michael Keaton, everybody was like, he's a comedian. He's what? That's a terrible miscasting. You want to know something? They did pretty damn well. And those movies, if they had failed, would have killed the franchise going forward. But instead, the entire movie franchise stands on the shoulders of the Michael Keaton Batman. And he balanced, and I relate to it because the more stress I have, the funnier I am. Like I don't know how I developed, but it's like a defense mechanism or a coping mechanism. And I think Michael Keaton's like subtle humor in there, I think added a dimension hitherto unseen.
Got it. So since we're talking about Batman, then you have to answer this question then.
All right then.
Because you can't have a Batman and not talk about the characters, the actors that played the Joker, right? So, which is your Joker? Best Joker? Is it Joaquin Phoenix, who played the Joker in the recent movie? Is it Heath Ledger, who played the Joker iconically in the Batman trilogy? Is it Jack Nicholson? Or I'll take you all the way back to the 1960s camp.
Cesar Romero.
Cesar Romero.
All right.
Yeah. 4 of them. You only could pick one.
Okay.
This is riveting really stuff for your audience members. I know.
Is very, very difficult because there's a first and a second, and the others are distant third, etc. I'm going to give it to Ledger
Mm-hmm.
by what we used to say in crew, by a bow ball,
Mm-hmm.
by inches. Photo
Mm-hmm.
finish Ledger over Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody else is a distant second because they capture the psychological Armageddon that created the character. All right? They created this internal conflict where I have to say that Batman could have been it's a mirror image of Batman except on the crime side.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever read the graphic novel The Killing Joke?
No.
Okay.
I should read it.
All right. So I'm going to tell you The Killing Joke.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So some version of the Joker says to Batman, a guy there's two buildings separated by an alley. And one guy says, I'm going to shine the flashlight across the crevasse, and I want you to stand on the light and walk across. And the guy says, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to get halfway across and you're going to turn the flashlight out. That's The Killing Joke. And I think that is one of the funniest things I've ever heard. And I don't know who came up with it, but I whoever they are, I just want to hug them. Right?
It'd be a short hug.
All right. But this, do you know, and I know there's somebody who would appreciate this conversation. Do you know Bill Lublin?
He sounds familiar. The name sounds familiar. I don't think I've met him personally.
All right. So Bill Lublin owns the largest Century 21 group down in the Philadelphia area. Century 21 Gold Advantage.
Right.
And he is a huge comic book guy. And I think this entire little tributary of conversation that we're on speaks to the fact that real estate people are every bit as multidimensional and complex as anybody else.
Right.
Anybody else. We're not just about, checking our messages and, putting out tweets and everything like that. We are people. We, by and large, love animals at a very high percentage. We're about the puppies and the dogs and the cats and everything like that. Pet-friendly niches and everything like that. But we are people. We have interests and we love our families and that's why we do this. No one does this, by the way, because it's easy money. That is one of the hilarious misconceptions about this industry. It's nothing easy about this industry. Everybody I've ever talked to on this broadcast they're many things, but they're a hard worker.
Well, if you get into this business, we've seen this before, Phil. You've been in the business long enough. If you get into this business thinking it's going to be easy money, those are the ones that are out within 6 months to a year.
Yeah, bye-bye.
That's it. It's not a get rich scheme. This is a full-time job, and I think the folks that make it in this business kind of take it seriously. And you're right, they're multidimensional. They have personalities and they like to network and they like to socialize and they're creative thinkers because you got to think creatively and solving solutions and all. And so they're multifaceted and they're entrepreneurs, and they have to have Teflon skin and all that stuff. But that's the component of being in business, a real business, not just a hobby and see if I can get a couple of dollars very quickly. Because you're right, those are the ones that don't last. It's
a lowly paid hobby, and it's a well-paid business if you're consistent. So let me ask you about this. The current, we've seen a lot of markets, you and I, in the past. I'm 27 years, so I'm 96 when I got into the business. So we've seen a lot of markets. This is the most unique market I've seen yet.
Yeah.
And, the low inventory is a thing. What are you doing with your team to address this? What's your kind of mantra or your game plan with your team other than, this too shall pass? Like, what steps are you guys taking over there?
Right. So it's funny you say that. There's multiple things that we're doing here. And I just had a conversation with my team yesterday, Monday, right? I have these things. I have Mondays. I have meetings that are called Momentum Mondays, And the reason I do that, I have it at 11 o'clock in the morning because I know the behavior of the agents. Most of them won't show up at 9. I've tried.
No, not Mondays.
Exactly, not Mondays.
Yeah.
Maybe not Tuesdays to Fridays either, but definitely not Mondays. So I figured let's start at 11 o'clock, but let's get working on a Monday morning to build enough momentum that we have appointments Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, right? If we do the basic fundamentals. And so every Monday I sit down with as many people that show up to the office, and we go down a list of things to do this week, starting today, Monday, to give you business. So the stuff I've told the agents yesterday was, look, whatever you were doing last year, you got to double down and do it. You got to do it twice as hard. You got to do it twice as smart. You got to put in twice as much equity, and you got to put twice as much capital.
Yeah.
Because we know where the market is going. We've seen it, right? So you got to buckle down. But I've also told the agents at my office, this is where, again, you get paid to be a professional in this industry, and from a buyer's perspective, right? You're a buyer's agent. Someone comes to you, Phil, and says, I want to sign your buyer agency agreement, and I want you to help me find a home.
Okay.
That's not you sitting back, right? That's not you sitting back and waiting for the house to come on the MLS. And then you show the house on the MLS, you get outbid, and then you're saying this business is a tough business. That's not what the buyer is hiring you for. I said, guys, this is a time of season where you really now have to work for your money. And that means from a buyer's perspective, the seller's different. From a buyer's perspective, the buyer's hiring you to find them a home. Go find them a home. Don't wait until it pops up in the MLS. Network the buyer. Talk to them to your sphere, to local businesses. Go on networking events. Get on your phone calls. Do what the buyer has hired you to do, and that is to find them a home. That's why you get paid very well for doing that. You don't get paid very well just to sit and wait until a house pops up on the MLS, and then you go and make an appointment. That's not what you get paid for. You get paid to find all creative ways to do that. So one of the things because there's no inventory. Yeah. So, statistically speaking, NAR had a report that they put out a couple of weeks ago, which I thought was very interesting. So we drilled down to the education. And what I mentioned to the agents in the office was, it said it. According to the NAR statistics, last year and this year, the average homeowner was 60 years old, right? Yeah. And the average homeowner were empty nesters. Yeah. The average homeowner now doesn't know whether they want to sell or not. They're on the fence. We don't know. The average homeowner now, they may or may not use the services of a realtor. They'll pay us a fee, but they may not necessarily want to list and go through the process of a brokerage, a listing through a brokerage, because the off-market deals are up 20%, right? Yeah. So I told the agents, if you have a buyer and that buyer is looking to buy a $600,000 house or $700,000 house in White Plains and it's not on the market, talk to the folks in that price range, homeowners that have a house valuated at that number, and create a seller from a homeowner. Yeah. There are homeowners now that if you offer them enough money reasonably, they will make a selling decision, right? You just have to get these folks off the fences. So it's called work. Yeah. So if you show up on a Monday morning and you work this industry, you're going to be paid very, very, very well. And that's the difference between the 80% and the 20%, right? It hasn't changed. In fact, let me correct myself. It has changed. It's gone from 80-20 to 87-13, right? The 13% figured it out. How do I survive in this industry and they still turn out the sales? 87% of the balance of the agents are trying to figure out, how do I get to become a 13%er? It's called work. Yeah. You go up and you work.
Yeah, so, we're not talking about digging ditches. We're talking about sending out mailers, talking about calling your sphere, calling attorneys who may be in probate or estate, everything. To me, the market of the moment is vacant homes.
Right.
Because now you're not trying to fix this Rubik's Cube of where the occupant's going to go. Because that's the conundrum that, for example, an empty nester or a move-up buyer may have. If you're paying 3% interest and organically it's time to move, and you're looking at 6.25% interest, you're going to either, if you're an empty nester, you're going to stick it out a little bit longer, mow your own lawn, or if you're a move up person, you're going to be like, you know what, bunk beds,
Right.
something like that, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the market of the moment, at least to me. But you touched on something that I love it, and I put it in a little different word, but bearing down, whatever an agent does today is their love letter to themselves of 60 to 90 days from now.
Well said.
Right?
Yep.
That's the love letter to future you. And it's not going to happen debating about the market or something like that. It's only going to happen if you get out there and you talk to people.
It's interesting. You said love letter, so I love that. Every year,
use it royalty free.
Yeah. God bless you. God bless you, Phil. There's every year, January, I have the agents write themselves a letter and they give me the letters. In fact, let me see. I think I have them here. Right. So you see these letters here? This is a letter. This is one stack of like 70 stacks. See, these are letters here that I had the agents write to themselves in January, and I hold on to them. And at some point throughout the year, I mail it to them. So they're talking to their future self. So I tell the agents, it's January 2023. What would you tell your future self about the work that you did this year so far? Right. So if you get the letter in September, this is the letter that you wrote yourself 9 months earlier or 9 months later. And what's the message you want to tell yourself? Because sometimes you need to be uplifted, right? So what's an inspirational letter? So in September, when I send anywhere between July and September. They kind of know my MO already.
Yeah.
If they're down, they get this inspirational letter from their past selves. If they're up, hey, way to go. Keep going. You're awesome. They're getting a letter from their past. So whatever it is, it either moves them, encourages them, or kicks them in the butt to say, hey, you got to get moving, right? One way or another.
That's
so
brilliant.
It goes to what you're saying. Yeah. And it works because they forget that they wrote the letter.
Great minds think alike. You actually have them write a letter.
Yeah. No, have them write a letter, Phil. Have them write a letter. And
I love it.
They will forget about it until that one morning or afternoon they come home. They're having a great day and they get this letter. They're having a shitty day and they get this letter. And written by who? Their former past.
Their past self. I love it.
Their past self.
All right. So how does one get in touch with you, Joe? Tim's going to put the contact information through. But Tim, you're going to put Joe's contact. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. That looks great.
All right.
Who's that handsome guy? Phil, who's that guy?
That's pretty good. That's actually your brother.
That it could be my brother, but it could be me too, Phil. You give me a little credit. It could be me too.
Okay, so there's one thing we haven't talked about, and I'm a little jealous, but maybe this is something you can teach me. You have taught yourself to tie a bow tie.
Well, Catholic school does that to you. Catholic school taught me how to tie a knot, regular knot for a regular tie, and a bow tie.
That's I went to Catholic school and we didn't have that.
What Catholic school did you go to, Phil?
I went to Kennedy Catholic in Somers. I didn't go to a real Catholic school like
that. What you mean? There's no Saint Kennedy. It's just Kennedy.
Kennedy was no saint. It was founded in the 60s when they were naming everything after the guy after he was assassanated. So Tim, we don't have an email address on there, or well, we kind of do.
Yeah, we do.
It's joe.maymi@randrealty.com. All right.
So
Joe's more than an associate broker. He manages Rand's flagship office in White Plains. All right. I have yet to run into someone who does not love working with you.
Thank you.
Yet to. It'll never happen.
I'll pay them well.
And we have your so we got all your info. Final thought that you want to leave us with.
It's a shameless plug, Phil. It's a shameless plug.
Do the shameless plug. That's why you're here.
Yeah. So May 18th, the HGAR Foundation is having their very first Dancing with the Stars kind of charity event. I think it's held at the Casino Club in New Rochelle. Danielle Reese and Bonnie are Ralph Gabe, all those guys that are part of the HGAR Foundation have put this great program together. And I believe there are 10 couples that are dancing for charity, ballroom dancing.
Really?
Yes.
And you're one of them.
And I fortunately, because I like this kind of stuff, I like to do charity work. Myself and JP Andres, who's a manager for Faranda in Westchester County, in New City.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
In Rockland, in Rockland County. We are one of, I believe, 10 couples. And some of your very favorite people are dancing. And so we've been paired up with an Arthur Murray dance instructor to show us a ballroom routine. There you go. Thank you, Tim. And it is May 18th. The tickets are on sale now. Brett Lando, I believe, is dancing. Irina Amato is dancing. Mark Agjar is dancing.
Wow.
I believe a couple of other big names that you guys have associated with for years are putting on our tutus and our leotards. And we're going to showcase, we're going to do 10 showcases for the real estate community. So we want you guys to come out and support. We're expecting this place to be sold out. In fact, ticket sales are going very quickly. That we went from a 300 room to a 500 room, the biggest ballroom they have, because we figured we would be sell out. We'll sell it pretty quickly. So, guys, get your tickets. Come see us perform. Make fun of ourselves so that we can raise money for good charities.
I love it. And Joe, what did I tell you? I told you this would fly by, didn't I?
You were not kidding, my friend.
It flew by.
You were not
because there's
kidding.
so much. There's like a whole list of questions still on the list, but we're out of time. So, Joe, Maymi,
we'll do it
friend,
again.
colleague, I think we will do it again. Thank you very much. And it's is it Batman? No, it's Superman.
My favorite, Superman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
That's it.
Gotcha.
The Justice League.
All right then. Go Justice League.
All
right. We will leave it there.
Thank you again, Phil. Thanks again. I appreciate the opportunity. This was a lot of fun.
I'm glad.